President Roosevelt once said that comparison is the thief of joy. He was right. And yet, in our age of social media, all we seem to do is watch others from afar and then more than likely compare ourselves. And I won't lie, I do it too. There is this channel on Instagram called My Mulberry House, and I swear this woman is living my literal dream. She lives in this beautiful period property, in this stunning setting with chickens and runner ducks and even pigeons, and all whilst donning a beautiful floaty house dress. She just encapsulates that Beatrix Potter, quaint old English, vintage slow life that I want oh so badly. And do you know the one question that I would ask her if given the chance?
How did you afford this?
Because the thing is with cottagecore, although it's associated with things like rural idyllic living, cosy cottages, nature, homemade food, traditional crafts, these romanticised themes do come with a certain level of privilege due to things like land ownership, owning beautiful period properties, living in the countryside with access to rural spaces, leisure time. And yet the core of cottagecore is supposed to be simplicity, sustainability, and a slower pace of life rather than material wealth. And of course, I don't know the financial situation of any of the people that I follow on social media, and I have no right to know. But it does strike me as a funny kind of irony that historically, what would have been the dwellings of the everyday family, agricultural workers, labourers, craftsmen, dare I say it, but the common folk, is now home to people who can afford quite affluent period cottages. I mean, we all know that owning any kind of property is tough, but a Grade 2 listed thatched cottage in rural England? Nigh on impossible without some level of financial privilege. I mean, look, we all know by now that these aesthetic trends do carry a good dollop of contradiction. I mean, cottagecore, for example, relies heavily on rural self-sufficiency, nostalgia, and anti-modernity, and yet is largely played out on the internet. But that's because cottagecore does so beautifully what many aesthetics under the vintage nostalgic umbrella do. They provide an escape. And I'm not mad at them. For those that it speaks to, who doesn't want to live in a world of forage mushrooms, gingham tablecloths, baskets of wildflowers, sourdough bread and mossy terrariums? I do. I really, really do. In a world full of exhaust fumes from traffic, blue light from our phone screens and overconsumption, it's no wonder that people are craving the serenity of a babbling brook or a good dash of rustic simplicity. But did you know that the rise of cottagecore goes deeper than that and can be blamed on one particular cataclysmic event that affected every single one of us? Yes, the global pandemic is really what saw cottagecore soar. Although cottagecore has been emerging since as early as 2017 and then really started to come into its own in 2019 thanks to its popularity on TikTok, it was in 2020 that its popularity truly skyrocketed. On Tumblr, the hashtag cottagecore saw a 153% jump in use, while the number of likes for cottagecore posts rose by a staggering 500%. This is likely because we now had no choice but to stay at home, bar those of us that still had to work, and so what better thing to see on our screens than an aesthetic that makes staying at home not only romantic, but aspirational. And also, during a time where we were all gripped by the fear of the unknown, it's no wonder that people craved a good dash of wholesome. And in a world that was also consumed by contamination, it makes sense that people harken back to greeny landscapes and earthy symbols. I mean, we were all suffering from cabin fever, let's be fair, and I think if you lived in the city especially, there was nothing more that you wanted to do, maybe metaphorically, maybe physically, but to run to a vast expanse of nature and just take in a nice huff of fresh air. But instead we had masks wrapped around our face, which was very claustrophobic, so it makes sense to me why this aesthetic had such a profound impact. Man, the traffic be trafficking today. Post-pandemic, studies found a general increase in attraction towards positivity and joy, and individuals returned less to urban ways of life and stepped away from conventional urban modernity. However, cottagecore's recent spell in the social media spotlight is not the first time that this aesthetic has trended. The 60s and 70s saw the concept of homesteading, a lifestyle based on self-sufficiency and subsistence agriculture, resurge, only to re-emerge in recent years with hipster undertones as people advocated for adapting renewable energy technologies and growing heirloom vegetables, even if they didn't necessarily live in rural locations. Plus, we have the ever-growing Scandinavian concepts like hygge, a Danish and Norwegian word that describes a cosy, contented mood evoked by comfort and conviviality, and, oh boy, friluftsliv. Friluftsliv, a Norwegian concept meaning open-air living or life in the outdoors, centred around spending time in nature for physical and spiritual well-being. And both these concepts are also striking a chord on social media, although not nearly as heavily as cottagecore. But is it for everyone? I mean, can I, somebody that lives in the city with no immediate access to rural spaces, no chickens yet, unmarried, and someone that has worked full-time for most of her life, can I truly embrace this whimsical movement? Because I have to say, sometimes the endless imagery of slim, able-bodied Caucasian women holding wicker baskets filled with farm-fresh eggs feels a little inclusive and maybe overly nostalgic. Also, where do they get all their time? But the thing is, I want it. I too yearn for a little bit of magical bygone charm, even though history was not actually that rosy-coloured. I mean, should I feel guilty for feeling that when some people have actually linked cottagecore to colonialism and far-right politics? Well, I think we need to look at the very heart of cottagecore, and as with many nostalgia-driven aesthetics, cottagecore is about community, where people are embracing old traditional skills that previous generations would have had and empowering themselves to be more self-reliant and sustainable by learning to garden, sew, or DIY. It's a cosy feeling lifestyle, full of nature, growing your own vegetables, spending time with pets, or having picnics in the garden. And although many of us cannot tap into the aspect of rural tranquility, these values of cottagecore, a connection with nature, DIYing, living a simple and mindful lifestyle, are not inherently for the privileged. Many people of various backgrounds adopt aspects of cottagecore even if they don't live in the countryside or even have a garden or own their own property. And I'm one of them. I still practice the art of country living even though I'm right here in the city. Ah, the golden hour. The time to summon the cottagecore gods. Although, let's be fair, they'd probably be goddesses. Goddesses? What is the plural for goddess? I grow my own vegetables, I thrift, and more importantly, I live a life that feels enriched and meaningful. And I know so many people who are yearning to embark on that journey as well, no matter the circumstances that life has dealt them. They want to live a life that feels right for them. And funnily enough, this is exactly the reason that I started my membership, the Doll's House Club, to help people in doing that. And my goodness gracious me, can I just say thank you so much to all of the members that have already signed up. I am completely overwhelmed and thrilled to embark on this journey with every single one of you. And if you'd like to know more, I've linked my website below. So I guess what I'm saying is that ultimately, no, cottagecore is not just for the privileged. It's about embracing a certain mindset or aesthetic and taking a healthy step away from the chaos that modern living can sometimes bring. And while some of the lifestyle elements that we often see portrayed all over social media may very well be tied to privilege, I believe that the overall ideals of simplicity and taking time to smell the roses every once in a while may be more accessible than they first appear.